Being in sales, training sales teams. Our great friend, Jason Elmore, who runs Elite Execution.
The number one question is around territory planning. When you get the new job, listen very closely. Is there a process? Are there tools? Is there a way of doing this that works? Or did I get to a company where, frankly, that wasn't real clear?
A lot of people think you're going to get hired at a Medtronic, a Stryker, a big, massive company, and the training's going to be amazing. They go in, they give you more information than you can deal with in 2 weeks, and you don't even remember your name. And then they say, we pay you a lot of money, go figure it out.
You spend time and effort and money going to meet with people just because they have high volumes. You will waste a lot of time and money, and you might lose your job. If you cannot step away from a territory for 3 to 5 days to go to the home office and be part of new hire training, get away for 3 to 5 days to take your wife and your family, then what's the use of making $700,000?
Everyone in med device sales is going to tell you to work hard. Work hard, work hard, work hard. But what most people do is they work hard, they don't work smart. Work smarter, not harder, right? And my whole goal is, what if you work smarter and harder? Welcome to making all the money. And this is the reason I'm saying that. Welcome back to New to Medical Device Sales. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin. And today, my friends, we bring a very special guest that you all know already, who we get messages all the time saying, when's Jason coming back on the podcast so we can learn more knowledge? And today we've made it back and have it happening to bring our great friend, Jason Elmore, who runs Elite Execution, who has more experience than anybody that we're going to talk about, actually being in sales, training sales teams, and he'll actually share some of the fun things that he's been doing over the last year, being able to help a lot of people break in. And today we're going to go over something that I know is going to be so beneficial. So instead of going into it, if you guys haven't, we have other podcasts with Jason that I know will be insightful for you all. But let's just get into it and say, Jason, welcome back to the show.
Good to see you, Jacob. Congratulations on all the success. It's been exciting to talk to a lot of people coming through your program. And they got the job. It's like, holy cow, this worked. I got the job. And so obviously, as we know, your focus is, breaking in. And my focus is, okay, companies who are trying to launch, try to go to market, and need sales process, need sales tools, need sales training as they go. And so a lot of the calls that I get from people who have broken in for the one-on-one training, the number one question is around territory planning. Got the job. Got great product training, got great procedure training. I'm in the OR, I'm with surgeons. It's wonderful. Now I have to actually run a franchise. And that is what we're working with in a lot of situations. And I want people to appreciate this. 90% of all small businesses fail. 90% of all new products fail, but 90% of all franchises succeed. And so you need to think about it that way. When you get the new job and you get to new hire training, listen very closely. Is there a process? Are there tools? Is there a way of doing this that works that or did I get to a company where, frankly, that wasn't real clear? Some of the reps that are coming out of your program are getting a chance to go to work for distributors. Some of them are getting a chance to go 1099. So not everybody's W-2. Not everybody's in a situation where they're working for the world's largest company where you succeeded. Obviously, some of those bigger companies have process. They have really good training. They have really good process. Some of the smaller tier companies, mid-tier companies, not so much. And when you get into the company, what you realize is you might have little fiefdoms. You might have the West director runs his business this way, and the East director runs his business that way, and the company really isn't dialed in on their processes. And so when it gets down to territory planning, you may or may not have great resources. You may or may not have a lot of direction. And so those are the questions I'm getting primarily, and I'd like to talk about that today.
And that's what I can't wait to go over with everybody, because you are 100% on everything you just hit, because we actually just had this talk. I just had it with 3 people because we have multiple interviews going for like different companies. Okay. And what people get really confused by is a couple of things I just wanted to share is, number one is, a lot of people think you're going to get hired at a Medtronic, a Stryker, a big, massive company, and the training's going to be amazing. Now, the one thing I just always share with people is usually, like you said, they do have the process, the systems and everything. What I've also watched, though, is what people do is they go in, they give you more information than you can deal with in 2 weeks, and you don't even remember your name. And then they say, we pay you a lot of money, go figure it out. Like, there it is. And that's where, just so you guys know, just little plug for Jason is, like, he has a great book that will help you. But this is why Jason and us are making this, is because what do you do once you're in it? Like, they're not going to talk to you too much about, hey, you have a lunch with a doctor Now what? Right? Like, oh, I don't remember that in training at where I was at. So that's number one. But like you said, also, I've been at the largest med device companies in the world, and I've been at a startup, right? Well, I went from training with a field sales trainer, and one of our coaches is a field sales trainer at Medtronic, and she's amazing. She's flying all over, going out in the field and helping. And I've also been with the CEO, with me and my people, just saying, hey, this is how you do it. This is how I've done it for the last 5 years. And so there's such a big variance of it. And the last thing I just want to mention, and then Jason's going to just share all the knowledge with you guys, is the talk I just had with one of our girls she has a family member who works at a massive med device company, but they work and use a distributorship sometimes. And she's like, well, is this every piece of this company, right? And when I'm saying this company, it's a massive company. And I said, well, I need you to think about whether it's a Medtronic, whether it's a Stryker, whether it's a Johnson & Johnson, whatever big company you can think of. I always tell them, you have to think about it like the United States of America. Within a Medtronic, you have ENT, you have spine, you have GYN, you have capital equipment, you have all these different companies and divisions inside the big circle of Medtronic. And then I can't remember which division it was, but one of the divisions just broke off from Medtronic and did, like, that standalone business does $2 billion. So they're already in the 1%. But what people don't understand is in those, ENT is going to be way different than capital, right? And like how they run it, and they have a different VP of sales and everything. And then exactly what Jason just said is then you get inside of that, and it's like another subcategory of like, okay, let's say like when I was at GYN, well, we had our VP of sales, then you have the director of the East, and then you have the director of the West, who both have way different backgrounds.
Right.
And that's how they're running it, and they run their durations and their sides very differently. Then you also get to the point where you have a regional manager, and that regional manager comes, and I always just share this if you guys haven't heard the stories, like, I came into the lowest performing territory. I didn't even meet my manager for the first year of being in Medtronic. And like at one point told me I make more money than she does. Right. And so the reason I just share that is because I walked into exactly what Jason's about to help you guys with is, what do I do? My first day, I didn't even have my car. I didn't have my laptop. I just got into my beat up $3,000 car and started stopping at clinics. I didn't even know if they were prospected clinics or not, because I didn't even have access to the software. And so I just want to share that why this is about to be such a huge topic for you all. And I want you to take notes is there's so much that goes into this. And so Jason's going to help you, because this is exactly what I've done when I either Arizona, New Mexico, and I had no help and I had to bring it to the top. Same thing when I was with Innovis, and they're like, you run the Western United States, you got 13 states, here's your quota, good luck, go. And my CEO's in the UK, right? So please take notes. Jason's about to drop a lot of knowledge on you all.
Well, we want to, so big picture is this.
Yeah.
Okay. Big picture is number one, targeting. Number two, segmenting. Number three, gap analysis. Number four, geographical management. And number five, time management. Like, as you're thinking about the big buckets that you have to work through and the exercises you're going to have to do and the analysis you're going to have to do, those are the big buckets. So they're going to give you a list, or you're going to build one, to your point, right? Which division are you in? Mm-hmm. Are you in gynecology? Are you in urology? Are you in cardio? Like, that's the beauty of medtech, is your call point is going to be pretty consistent. Your product works for this specialty. So let's say it's urology. Okay. Well, in your state, there are 123 urologists. But within urology, right, there's specialization. And so you're segmenting.
Yep.
And within that, and one of the things that's my secret sauce is, do you have a disruptive new product that you're launching, or do you have a mature product that's been on the market for 20 years? Because the approaches to those two issues is completely different. If you're something brand new, you need to apply the adoption curve. Meaning, I have 123 urologists. Some of those are innovators who love new technology. Some of those are early adopters who are looking for a market advantage and will put up with a lot of crap on a product that's not quite baked, only has 1 year data, doesn't have a code, doesn't have coverage. But I'll put up with that to get an advantage and get out early. Yep. And then the rest of the market is going to wait.
Yep.
And if you spend time and effort and money going to meet with people just because they have high volumes of that procedure, and you don't take into account their adoption curve profile, you will waste a lot of time and money, and you might lose your job.
Yep.
Because you'll miss your quotas. As opposed to if you have a mature product where this is a little bit more account management, this is a market share game, this is going to be about contracting and pricing, this is going to be about bundling or capital, right? Capital's different. There's very different approaches to those things. So you need to take that list. You need to think about targeting. You need to have a methodology, a reason why you're going to these people, not to those people. I specialize in startup. I specialize in breakthrough technologies. Mm-hmm. Literally, if the product you're selling doesn't change the conversation with the physician and the patient in the exam room, I'm probably not going to be involved. Like that's one of the questions I ask. So targeting, okay, it's not just a list. You can't just target 123 physicians, right? That's not going to work.
Yep. After helping thousands of people break into medical device sales, we've received a lot of messages of asking for more personalized coaching and mentorship. Our average member breaks in 8.5 weeks at over $105,000. And if you're really interested and really motivated to break into medical device sales, you can click the link below or check out our website at newtomedicaldevicesales.com. See all the testimonial videos of people breaking in with Medtronic at over $170,000, at Abbott $175,000 as a full line rep. So if you're really excited and also motivated and wanting personalized coaching and mentorship, then go and click the link below, schedule a call, and we'll get you where you want to go. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
Then you get to segmenting. They've given me a territory. I need to segment and I need to figure out who competes with who. That sounds kind of weird, physicians competing, but they do compete. Yep. And you have to understand referral patterns. You have to understand geographically that patients, there's a break line where patients here go this way and patients here actually go that way.
Yep.
So you need to understand your referral patterns, your segmenting, because you're going to be working with referring physicians. Maybe there's post-op care, physical therapy, and other things related to your product that you need to understand the patient pathway. How do patients come to this physician and where do they go after that physician? How's the hospital systems competing? So everybody should be paying attention to their hospitals. In most major metros, hospitals are competing and they're positioning and they're branding themselves. One is all about we're the place to come for the ER, and they've got this clock out on the billboard that says, hey, it's only 4 minutes if you come to our ER. Some of them are the heart hospitals. Some of them are the pediatric hospitals. Some are the cancer hospitals. Some are the new technology hospital.
Yep.
Lean into their branding. See how you can partner and align your product, your solution, your message with that physician and that hospital and what's going on there. Which gets us to disruptive marketing. Most of you will have resources to market your products or co-market your products with physicians. And you want to be methodic in this way, okay? When you're partnering with physicians and specifically surgeons who are offering procedures and you're selling products to surgeons with procedures, when they start to educate their markets, they need to educate their patient base first, meaning send a letter or something to the patients that are in their system. That could be 2 to as many as 20,000 people. Mm-hmm. Then go to the referring physician network of people who already know them, right? And educate your referring physicians. Then use the hospital resources, right? There's usually newsletters and physician liaisons. A newsletter can reach 60,000 people. Like, getting it, and it's free. It's free marketing, free advertising. And then go direct to consumer in various ways. But one of, whether that's the health desk or the newspaper or maybe your company has resources to do advertising, those type of things, radio and marketing. But one of the things I want you to appreciate is this. If you tap into a physician who's pretty savvy at marketing, and maybe they're already running radio ads, maybe they already have a billboard, those type of things, be careful. There is a catch, and it's this. Some physicians have a reputation, and they are first to market, and they are first to do marketing. If you can get them to push the pause button, and if you can get them to collaborate with the hospital, there's a funny dynamic in the marketplace, and it goes like this. If the surgeon puts up a billboard himself or herself, they're a gold digger, and everybody else in the marketplace assumes that your product or your solution is a gimmick. If that exact same billboard goes up and it's got a little marker in the bottom, it's got a little emblem in the bottom with the hospital's nameplate on it, if the branding's the hospital, then that surgeon is a leading light in our community, very, very credible, trusted professional. We love that guy. And so, as much as possible, do what you can to use the hospital's resources, the hospital's money, but also use the hospital's brand because it can help you avoid tainting your marketplace and hurting your product or your solution if they don't have that branding on that billboard. So just FYI on that.
Love it.
Number 4, gap analysis. You're probably working with quota. At the very least, you need to have a revenue goal. Right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to generate $2 million in this territory. Okay, back that out. How many physicians is that going to take? How many cases are they going to have to do at your ASP? And then get to the point where you're actually doing it by name. So if you say, hey, I need 10 physicians who give me 4 cases a month at this ASP, go deep enough to actually write down names of people you think you might.
Come on, man.
Like, get it to names, which hospitals, which ASCs, like, and plot. And then you're ready to go geographic, which is number 5. Build a map. I mean, be stupid. Get a PowerPoint deck, put text boxes, grab a map off the internet, drop it onto that PowerPoint slide, and put the text boxes where the doctors are and where the hospitals are, and have a really good conversation with your manager.
Yes.
That visual aid is super helpful because from a geography standpoint, you may have segmented your market correctly. And you may have found that the early adopters who are likely to jump on your product first are here, 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 over here, down here, down here. And you don't want to use the star method. I don't know if your team is.
Yep.
But like up here, over here, down here, down here. Right? You don't want to be driving all over creation because that's stupid and it's not strategic. And but you got to work geographically. And if you do some marketing, you need to know if I put a billboard up, if I run some ads, if I send some letters, if I do social media, if I do some posts in this guy's backyard, whose Wheaties am I peeing in? There's going to be a ripple effect.
Yes.
Geographically, right? That's why we use geofencing and catchment zones and all those kind of things. There are going to be other practices. There are going to be other physicians that are going to see and hear and know what you're doing. And those should be your next targets.
Yes.
That's working smart. There should be a ripple effect. And geographically, you should be working smart. But do the gap analysis, get the names, get the places, start to think through what it means to win there and who else is there that you could win. And if you start to do some marketing, who else you're going to disrupt. And geographically, can I really pull that off? Can I really go 2 hours in this direction and 3 hours in that direction and an hour and a half in that direction? Can I really do that? Which gets us to our last thing, which is time management and prioritization. You really do have to think through, is the juice worth the squeeze? Some physician targets are strategic in nature. They're not going to do a lot of volume for you, but they may be tremendous advocates. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll listen to that argument. There are other folks who, just by the nature of their practice, the way they're set up at the ASC, the way their contracts are set up, the insurance situation in this area, fantastic targets, right? Okay, I'll take that. But sometimes, geographically in particular, you have to be thinking a couple moves ahead. You do have to, not 4D chess, but you do have to think ahead.
Yes.
And like, if I win here, if I put a foot down here, if I make a commitment here, can I really keep up with what it's going to mean if this really goes well?
Come on.
Or am I creating a problem for myself where I really am not going to be able to scale this? So that's what the gap analysis does for you.
Yep.
Right? I think I'm going to go target these people. I think they're going to generate this much business, these many cases, meaning this much revenue. And then I need you to think next level. If you win with those 10, geographically speaking, or within the practice or within the institution, who's likely to be your next 10 based on the ripple effect? And if that happens, geographically, do you have enough hours in the day to cover that? Are you working smart, or is that going to look super stupid and crush you? And so that brings me to my last topic about this kind of territory planning. And listen, we're staying high level. There's specifics, the tactics. If you need more information, you can go to my website. But you and I were talking about this. Mm-hmm. We're seeing a trend of men in particular, to be frank, in the last 7-8 weeks. I've bumped into a number of med reps They were in classes that I were teaching, that new members of our company who've recently gotten divorced. These are successful people. Hear me. These aren't people who got divorced and are really struggling professionally. These are people who got divorced and are rep of the year, super successful, making lots of money, have been successful, have been to P clubs. Like, they're doing well. But at what cost? If you are not planning correctly, if you're not taking these steps into account, and you really are putting in immense amount of time, it's going to cost you. If you cannot step away from a territory for 3 to 5 days to go to the home office and be part of new hire training and be an FST and like contribute in that way. If you can't get away for 3 to 5 days to take your wife and your family, somewhere and get that vacation, then what's the use of making $700,000?
Exactly.
The med tech world is amazing. It's this amazing job where people really do count on you. There's a patient on the table at 7:30, anesthesia's going in, right? And you need to be here. And it's the most wonderful job I've ever had, because I've never been so valuable to the people I call on.
Come on.
Is that Jacob? Is that the juice or what?
It's all of it. Just so you know, I've watched people leave and then they have to go back because they're like, I just felt so valued. When you're there and
100%.
like, again, and there's nothing like you doing your job so well where the whole staff and the surgeon's like, thank you so much. You get a hug. Like, there's just so much of making that difference. And then it doesn't hurt when you see the paycheck come in at the end of the month either.
But I am seeing a situation where on a number of occasions, people have said, I can't come to your new hire training. I can't support that. I can't get away from my territory. I can't take that vacation that they dream about. And what they, I don't know if there's a therapist out there somewhere, but I think there's an opportunity where this is a job that you could love. This is a job that you could find yourself way deep. And some of these jobs, spine, ortho, some of the STEM programming jobs where you're interacting with patients, some of these jobs are very high on the time chart. Right? They do require a lot of time, and you got to be careful with that. My first 6 years in sales, I naively, and I will say naively, committed to not traveling. Now, that did limit my career. My first 6 years, it was career limiting to say I'm not going to travel. It means I'm not going to interview for certain jobs. I'm not going to take certain jobs. I'm not going to take certain promotions. I did that. I have 9 kids. I have 5 grandkids. I am madly in love with Ginger. We are having a wonderful moment. I'm 52. We took the Dave Ramsey advice to live like no one else so that you could live like no one else. So we took his advice. We poured ourselves into our kids and some homes, and we worked hard to get out of debt. And I will tell you, it's only been in the last couple years that we've turned the corner, and like we're experiencing what Dave was describing. Right? So there were 50 years where it was like, is that true? Is that, so it's real, but listen, you've got to do this territory planning that I'm talking about. You've got to build a business that you can get away from for a couple days. You've got to be careful with your relationships. It's not healthy to get the med tech job, get the $200,000 a year, work your way into the 300s, the 400s,
lose everything else.
Fall apart.
It doesn't do any good. And we talked off air, like one of the stories, guys, I just want to share is I remember being at a conference, being 27 years old, and I was getting introduced to CEOs and people who ran companies, and it was great. And the person I met was in their 60s, and they just were talking about how they wanted to go take their family on a vacation and go spend time with them. And this is a person who's running a company that's making millions. And he's like, but I can't because the business is just rocking and rolling and I just don't have time. And maybe in 6 to 12 months, I can look at that. And I just shared that with you all because it's what I shared with Jason. I remember walking away at 27 and being like, imagine being almost 65, like that time to retire, and you say you can't take 2 to 3 days to go be with your family when you're making millions. And I was like, that's that trap of always getting caught up in more and more and more and what this is. And then once I get this, I'll be good. And for me, I just remember being like, if that was it, it wouldn't be worth it to me. Some people will personally, they'll be like, I'll take that all day. But to me, because me and Jason have talked about it, like for me, and And where we believe is like, like who are you as men? Who are you as leaders? Who are you as a father or a husband? Where that, and luckily Jason's doing all of it. One day I hope to do all of that. And that's just, I think, one thing to put in there. And number two, I just want to just touch base on a couple things. I hope you guys watch this 20 more times, because what Jason just told you will literally change your whole career, because everything he said is exactly what I did in both of mine. I've been at the Medtronics, who it was established business. And I also was at Innovis, where it was a startup, and I was the first of 3 Americans here. And I was the first person going into these clinics, and they had never heard of us before. And what he talked about, whether you have a new product or an established product, it is dead on. It's all gold. But the one thing I want you guys to hear is find the goal, work it backwards, but don't just work it backwards by numbers and stuff. When you start putting actual names, and then you have 20 names that you can go after, you need 10 of them. But if you had 20 or 30 names, that's going to be your number one. But number two, what he said that I need you all to hear, if you won, could you do it? And that's the thing that has actually helped my whole career, and it's what I teach. Everyone in med device sales is going to tell you to work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. But what most people do is they work hard, they don't work smart. And then what I tell people, they say work smarter, not harder, right? And then my whole goal is, what if you work smarter and harder, right? Welcome to making all the money. And this is the reason I'm saying that, because exactly what Jason said, what if you go get that doctor who's 6 hours away or 3 hours away? He's doing more volume, and then you have a doctor that's there. It doesn't make sense. It's why for me in Arizona, I didn't spend much time in New Mexico, because in Phoenix, we got 7 million people here. There's enough surgery centers, hospitals, things that I can focus on here compared to, and that's a 30-minute, 50-minute drive compared to 6 hours. And then I take a flight. And then if I'm out there, I can go. But the next thing there is I got the hospital, then I got the surgery center there. So if I went, I made the most out of that. But then it didn't make sense to do anything else out there at that point. Now, in the future, if I got associates and people, it made sense with Medtronic. But at that point, no, just focus here. And so I want you guys just to hear that, because it was the same thing even with Innovis. When I went out, when I got San Diego, well, guess what? USC's by them, UCLA's by them. I can make a 2-hour trip and make it all make sense. But if you get San Francisco and then you get UCLA, right, then you go back to Denver, and they want us there. I can only be so many places. And even if I'm going, I'm out of my territory in a lot. So the reason I just want you guys to hear that, what Jason just did is what most reps never do. Most people, I always say, are like a sail in the wind. They're just trying to see where it takes them. Oh, they got an opportunity. They heard about this doctor, all the stuff. But it's why when you see success, it's not by accident. What Jason just said is it's a literal plan. Now, the chess pieces, you have to see what moves out. And guess what? You may get this doctor and miss out on this doctor. Or you planned for this and that fell through and that deal fell through. So now you have to replace it. But it's because you have a plan. And so if there's anything I can just share for you guys is, even every time I got into my territory, the first 2 weeks was literally just what Jason talked about.
Planning. Yep.
Planning. I literally sat on a thing and just was planning all the time. And then I'd find all the accounts where I needed to go. And then inside the accounts, I had an Excel sheet for each one. And I'd put who are the contacts that I had to reach out to. And then from there, I would then go even to more to specific, because we had different generals like general and GYN, and then go into that realm. Well, make it specific.
And this is exciting. I mean, for a lot of the people that we're talking to, you're going to get into a company that has amazing data.
Yes.
What I'm seeing, AcuityMD and MedScout and some of the information that you guys have access to is insane. When I got started, and we had pagers, right? And if we wanted to find doctors, we had to drive into town, drive to the hospital, and look at a sign that listed the physicians that were coming to this hospital. Like, you had to shoe leather express manually look in phone books to find, who's the doctor? And now they're giving you guys so much information. They have sunshine data. They have prescribing data. We know how many cases they do at the hospital, how many they do at the ASC. We know who went to residency with them, who they went to fellowship with. We know how many papers they published. And it's amazing. But to Jacob's point, if you don't take the time in your office to take that information, synthesize it, do the analysis, you're going to be very frustrated. Mm-hmm. And in the worst case, heartbroken in a couple years. Now, on the flip side, so I mentioned people who are getting divorced.
Yep.
there is this thing happening in the generation of 20s and 30 something where people
Yep.
aren't getting married.
Yep.
So whether it's you managed to find someone to love and you lost it, or you're having trouble finding someone to love, be careful, right?
Yep.
Find that balance, be successful, achieve your dreams. But if you do some of this analysis, you do some of this planning, you're gonna have time to spend that money and spend that success on some people you love.
So good right there. Guys, like this is one thing I just want to just go real quick. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Right? Like even just, even when I would go do like my cold calls the day, I would map out where I'm going, because otherwise what would happen is I would go down to Chandler, then I'd go up to North Phoenix, then I would go down here, and then I would waste 6 hours of driving and get 4 places. But if I was like, hey, if I go to this one, to then this one, then this one, I could hit 12 places in a matter of 4 hours. So this is just working smart. Now, number 2, I want to just touch on that as someone who just turned 30. Who has a beautiful girlfriend, but in my 20s, I was the guy. I got in at 25 and I'm like, I'm just going to change my life. And I had a relationship, and I can admit this to you all. That number one dumb thing I've always said, once I make money, I'll be happy. And then I can find someone. If I'm 30 and I make hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'll find someone. If I'm 27, if I'm this, just so you guys know, it is doable. Like, yes, you might find someone. Maybe not the person you want, but you might find someone. What Jason's talking about and what I've learned, because I have a beautiful girlfriend now and she has a child, and like all this stuff, is when I'm in work, I'm so intentional when I'm in work. But then moment I'm off work, right? It's splitting that time. But what most people don't know how to do is they feel like they always have to be working because they don't have a plan. They don't know what they need to accomplish. They don't know what they need to be pushing for. They don't know what they need to get done. And then one of the things they learn is they also, like Jason's talking about, is don't be a slave to your territory, right? It's also about setting boundaries. It's about doing the things when you're in the industry, compared to what everybody does is jump and you say, how high? Because the reason I'm sharing that, just a quick little story for you all, is my top account, I was there every single day for about 2 years. I did in-services once a month. They knew me by name. I left for a weekend. So literally one day I wasn't going to be there because I had missed my nephew. I hadn't gone home, and now he was about 3 and I hadn't seen him in almost a year and a half. I let everyone know 3 weeks in advance, and then 2 weeks in advance, and then 1 week in advance. And I was telling the surgery schedulers, I was telling the GYN lead, I was telling the staff, I was telling everyone, and I put my number on my equipment. And we did in-services right before I left. While I was home for the one day that I let everyone know a whole month prior to, I got a call that they were having trouble running my equipment, which we've done multiple in-services on. The doctor was good. She was cool. The staff was struggling. And then I get a call saying the GYN director, who I let know multiple times that I was going to be gone that day, very mad, threatening to kick me out because I didn't show up for the one case. I went back and set an in-service the very next week. And I said, I have been with you all for 2 years. I've been here every single day. You are all grown adults. And the fact that I wanted to go see my nephew, who I've missed for the last 2 years, and the one day I miss, you threatened to kick me out, but yet my competitor doesn't come to any of them, is a bunch of crap. Just so you know, to put it out there, I had 5 nurses come up to me and they're like, that was great. Nobody ever tells us how stupid we are. Like, that was awesome. That's when I started having a lot of success in my territory, was when I started setting boundaries and being like, hey, I can do this, but I'm going to give you the resources and I'm going to be there. You can't be the slave to where they say jump and you say how high. When you first start, yes. But at some point, otherwise you will never grow your territory. One of the best moves I always put, just so I can share some insight, is when somebody's like, I have to have you there, or a doctor has to have me, or a surgery, I say, hey doc, love you. Can you see all your patients and do the surgeries at the same time? No. Just like I can't be everywhere at once, but also the moment you, or if I was at the hospital, the moment your hospital starts paying all of my quota, you got me. But until that day, I will have to come in and out. And so I just share that with you guys, is to try to take control of where you're at. Now, again, if you're an associate for the first 6 to 12 months, for the love of God, please do not do that. Build a relationship, show your value, do all this stuff. But the reason I'm just sharing that is to Jason, as someone who, like, relationships are big to me and all this stuff, is I see where I went wrong when I was in my 20s, like 25 to 30, and where I'm at now. My communication with my partner now is way better, right? Hey, I'm doing this, just, expect this, all the stuff. But to the piece of it is, what good is it to make all this money if you're not happy, if you're not with somebody, if you're not being able to do it, and now you're all alone? Like, I just will sit here and tell you, focus on being really good at your career. Alex Hormozi does this, and I just want to put this out there. Do a time audit. I bet if you look at what you're doing from the moment you start work to the moment you quote unquote call work, but what he does is say start it at 6 a.m. or whatever time you start. If it's 7 a.m. and you get done at 5, every 15 minutes, document what you're doing. I'm just going to put it out there. I have a feeling many of you are maybe watching Instagram or on YouTube or TikTok, even when you're in your territory. The reason I'm sharing that, I know many of reps who are like, oh, I got a case and it got delayed and all this stuff. And guess what they do? Sit and wait instead of prospect, instead of sending out emails, instead of utilizing the time that you're inside the territory to make it. So I just wanted to put that out there, Jason. I know you probably can add to that, but I wanted to put that out there because I was the young guy and I made mistakes and let relationships leave, and I take ownership on a lot of that. But the reason I share that is I watch it every single day, and that's actually the thing that's the most sad to me. I live in Scottsdale. I see the private jets, and that's why everyone always comes to me and they're like, you're so different. And because just transparently, you guys, money is just a transfer of value. I've never chased the money. I watch so many people chase the money to get it, and they tell Gary Vee, I'll cry once I'm in my Ferrari. But what people don't understand is I actually have worked, personal trained with those people making $10+ million. And I was a 24-year-old broke kid, and they're like, I wish I could be half as happy as you. Nobody will truly understand that. And so instead of chasing the money, work on you, work on the relationship, work on being the best person you can be, whether it's in your relationship as a version of you and in what you're doing in business. But please just hear my heart. Do not go chase the things of the world to lose your soul, to then just have what everybody tells you will make you happy. Because I remember being the 26-year-old saying I had a commission check of over $50,000 coming from Medtronic, and I was like, it's going to change my life and all this stuff. And I remember it hitting in my bank account, and I felt zero difference. I literally felt zero difference. When I made the over 600 grand deal with Medtronic when I was at Innovis, like, I remember that PO coming, and for 3 seconds I was like, yes, awesome, with all the work, because the 16 months of all the work. That big deal made me excited for 3 seconds. This is what Jason said is, there's probably nothing more special as he's got Ginger and you guys have 9 kids, which I can't even fathom how you're even on this, have time. But the journey is more enjoyable when you find somebody to do it with and that you love, and that can be your biggest cheerleader, and you guys grow something together, rather than what we get taught is independent woman, do your thing, independent man, do your thing, and then everyone's doing this, and then we're trying to figure out how to make ourselves happy with distractions, social media, drugs, all this stuff. That has nothing to do with med device sales. Hopefully that's just a little bit of help. But Jason, I truly want to just say thank you so much for coming on. And can I just, for people who want to learn more about who you are, what you do, if this is their first time, because again, you guys, as you can see, Jason is an absolute expert. Where can they find you?
So the book's on Amazon, but there's a website, eliteexecutionsales.com. And so if you need further help, or if you just want to talk, feel free to reach out to me there. There's options there.
Awesome. And if you guys don't follow him on LinkedIn, he's an absolute stud. He, again, has changed so many people's lives. He literally works with organizations, helps them make sure that their sales teams can actually go and sell and make money and stay in business. And so we are just blessed to have him. And so you guys, make sure you go follow him. If you can, press that like and subscribe button. Share this with somebody you feel like can be helpful. And I just want to say thank you so much for the support. Just want you guys to know we always want you to win. And if you want to learn more about how to break into medical device sales, you guys can click the link below. But otherwise, make sure you go check out Elite Execution and go work with Jason. I hope you guys have a great one. Jason, thanks for coming on.
Take care, Jacob. Have a good
night. Peace.